For a better tomorrow, you have to keep going. Even in uncertain times, even when times get hard, you have to rise above the challenges. And you don't have to do it alone. BPI Business Banking is your partner in every step of the journey.
At BPI Business Banking, we pay attention to your needs,
making sure that you have the support needed as you build, rebuild, and grow your business.
Everything that is essential for you to manage more than just your money. We are not just supporting businesses. We build partnerships and lasting relationships. We want to empower you to succeed with relevant business solutions, such as fast and easy digital loan application processes, tailor-fit loan packages for your sustainable recovery and growth, and convenient digital banking that you can access anytime, anywhere. We are committed to realizing your dreams and aspirations together. Dare to go above and beyond. Turn your possibilities into reality. With BPI Business Banking, you have the right partner to make the difference. And we're right here behind you in every step of the way. BPI Business Banking, your partner in growth.
Sa tiwala, ang may maliit na negosyong tulad ko, pwedeng umasenso.
Kaya masaya ako sa Bangko Negosyo ko Loan. Dito, alaga ako.
Dito, bida ko.
Dito sa bangko, malaki ang tiwala namin sa may maliit na negosyo. Simpleng requirements, low interest, at mabilis ang approval. Higit 100,000 na ang napangiti. Apply na sa nearest Bangko branch. Sa bangko, may ngiti ang bukas mo.
These days, as the world is altogether experiencing industrial shifts and changes in the way we do business, one significant segment has risen as a barometer for the economy. MSMEs, or micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, make up 99.5% of operating businesses in the Philippines, according to the Philippine Statistics Authority. Over the past year, under global pandemic, MSMEs have been a focus of financial efforts from both the public and the private sectors. With these initiatives and growing access to technology, MSMEs now have more financial resources than ever to lead the economy towards recovery. In today's roundtable discussion, we dig into MSMEs and learn how financial inclusion empowers entrepreneurs to not only brave the current economic climate, but even overcome it. Joining us today from all sides of the business, we have Director Jerry Clavecillas of the Bureau of Small and Medium Enterprise Development with the DTI, Ms. Gov't Pagulayan, Acquisition Head for BPI's Business Banking Segment, and Mr. Jerome Minglana, President of BPI Direct Banco. I am Paolo Bitanga, host of Rappler's Inside the Industry talk show, but today I will be your moderator for this roundtable discussion. So, hello everyone. Let's get right into it. Let's start with the basics. What exactly are MSMEs, and what is the common thread that runs through medium, micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises? Starting with Director Jerry, how does DTI define these parameters?
Good morning, Paolo. Well, actually, globally, there is no common definition of micro, small, and medium enterprises quantitatively. But however, qualitatively, we all agree that this is a sector that require more support, more assistance from the government as well as from the private sector enabler. So in our case here in the Philippines, This is provided for by the Magna Carta for MSME development. This is Republic Act 6977, amended by RA 9501. We define micro as those with an asset size of up to 3 million pesos, and the small are those from 3 million peso up to 15 million pesos, and then the medium is from 15 million up to 100 million. We define them according to the asset size because in our Magna Carta for MSME development, there is a provision that all banks must lend out at least 10% of their total loan portfolio to this sector. So for our banks, in order for them to determine whether they have lent out to either micro, small, or medium, our definition is according to their asset size. So we define them as those with an asset size of not more than 100 million pesos as generally an MSME in the Philippines.
Amazing. Okay, so it makes sense, the categorization now of putting these different kinds of businesses all in this category. So perfect segue into the bank side of things, starting with GAC. What are the financial characteristics of MSMEs?
I agree with what Director Jerry mentioned, right, Pao? So it's based on RA 9501, and we look at MSMEs based on the job opportunities that they provide and also in terms of their asset size, excluding the land. But of course, there are other ways to scope who MSMEs are, right? So in the bank, we also look at their annual revenues, and also this greatly influences the amount of loan that they borrow. So take, for example, the small entities. We look at them in terms of revenues in the range of 1.5 million to 15 million, and they would typically borrow from 300,000 to 3 million. And then next level would be the lower medium. They would have the annual revenues of about 15 million to 75 million, and they usually borrow in the range of about 3 million to 15 million. And then lastly, the upper medium, they would have annual revenues of 75 million up to 500 million, and their borrowings would range from about 15 to 100 million.
Okay, great. So we're getting a clearer picture on the landscape. Now, last but not least, to go even more specialized, Jerome, any other unique traits about MSMEs that Banco specifically emphasizes on?
Hi, thank you, Paulo. Yes, Banco's target market would be the micro entrepreneurs. So that's the first M of your MSME. So as you mentioned earlier, this business is composed on 99.5%, right? But if you break that down further, 0.5% of that would be the medium, 10% of that would be the small, and 89% of that would have been micro. And we are only talking about the registered micro businesses and enterprises. In fact, our internal studies tell us there are about 5.4 million of them. And to put some more character to this segment, they are those who borrow amounts of less than 300,000. Their household income, monthly income, is about 50,000 or less. And a unique trait of theirs, at least most of them, is that they don't borrow from formal financial institutions. And therefore, Banco is now here to provide them that.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot more sense, because when you think micro, it's really, you're thinking as a sole proprietor, you just really, one day maybe I want to sell what I cook at home. I assume that's one scenario that you come across a lot. So already we see a huge range within the MSME ecosystem, but let's learn more about MSME specifically here in the Philippines. So Direct Jerry, what are the typical MSME businesses? Where are they mostly located? What are the challenges that they are currently facing during this pandemic?
Yeah, before I respond to that question, Jerome, let me first, Paulo, let me just first add some information to what has been shared by Jerome, no, that we have about 5 million MSMEs in the country today. Actually, based on the published information by our PSA, the Philippine Statistical Authority, we have about a little lower than 1 million as of 2021, first part of 2021. But based on our DILG, the Department of Interior and Local Government report, there are about 2.08 million enterprises that have registered with our local government units. So meaning there are still some sectors that are not really what's this captured by our PSA, because PSA does not capture, for example, those retail stores which are not having any formal employee. So if they have not registered employees, that means that they are not part of the PSA statistics. So there are still others, no? For example, those which are in the creative industry. They have no physical office, no physical stores. They are not also part of the statistics published by the PSA. So that's explained the difference between the figures published by PSA as well as those that have been collected, no, by our Department of Interior and local government units. Primarily, most of our enterprises are in the retail sector. Almost half of the total number that has been mentioned, either from the PSA or from the DILG figures, half of these are in the retail sector, and followed by those which are in the processed food as well as in the accommodation. So these are now also distributed actually nationwide. Majority of that, about 30%, are in Metro Manila, followed by the other urban areas, like for example in Region 7 in Cebu, and then Region 4A, Calabarzon, and Region 3. So meaning the businesses are also following wherever the development in the infrastructure as well as in the area is developing. So meaning that wherever there is economic development, MSMEs are also there. So the farther they are from the capital, from the NCR, for example, the least number of MSMEs. So that means that in the BARM, the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region for Muslim Mindanao, that's the region that has the least number of MSMEs in the country right now.
Yeah, Direct Jerry, I just wanted to kindly follow up then. In terms of the current status quo right now, what are some of the common challenges that these particular businesses are facing?
Yeah, if we are considering the situation right now, we are still in the pandemic. And since we started the lockdown last year, the Department of Trade and Industry has been conducting a regular monthly survey on the situations now of our MSMEs. At the start of the lockdown, March last year, about 50% of our total enterprises, especially in the capital, no, in NCR, are totally closed. And then only a little about 30% are fully operational based on the restrictions of our IATF. So they are following also the guidelines that there are certain sectors that are not allowed to operate fully. So this is the reason why gradually they have just started reopening, because in areas where the level of quarantine has improved, the enterprises are already allowed to operate fully. So this is now actually the challenge faced by our MSMEs, no, the restrictions, because they cannot tell whether they will be open tomorrow, next week, or what. Depends on the cases, because that's the factor that is being followed by our government to declare the level of quarantine in an area. So that is something that is really very difficult to predict for our MSMEs, and they have to be resilient about all of these happenings now. They have to really prepare a lot of things in order for them to cope up, no, with these challenges that they are now facing.
Yeah. Wow, it's just so crazy. It's a really volatile situation across all industries, and it does take. It seems that it takes an amount of courage, not just to operate a business at this time and to have some income depend on that. Now, on top of all of these challenges that we spoke about, just going back to the individual, I guess, we know that starting a business, no matter how small, has never been an easy task. So, Gak, starting with you, we know that financial inclusion is, of course, a big mission for BPI. No? So, what are the common barriers to entry that you've been seeing across prospective business owners? And how do banks like yours help them overcome these hurdles?
You're right, Paolo. We're really very committed on financial inclusion. In fact, The bank has established two groups to cater to MSMEs. One, of course, is Banco, and then the other is BPI Business Banking. And we've really designed our business solutions in business banking to cater to the needs of the negociantes. We understand that the negociantes need to manage their business opportunities. They need to manage their commitments to their customers. And for them to be able to do this, of course, they need to manage their purchases with their suppliers. They need to manage their employees, right? So as they do this, equally important is the need for them to manage their cash flow. That is why we are here, right? So sadly, some SMEs feel intimidated to approach the bank when they feel they need to borrow a loan because of they say there's a long list of requirements. It's really hard to put together. And they also feel that it's a long time. It takes a long time to borrow and get an approval. And there's also this challenge of putting up a collateral. The good news is that we hear you and we understand your needs. And therefore, we have come up with our loan program that is collateral free and it's fast. And in fact, we have made the requirements very easy. We have shortlisted it. If you are a sole prop, it would only take you 6 requirements to apply for a loan. So that's what we've been doing, Paolo, to support the SMEs. And we've been really trying to reach out to them through coffee talks to let them know what options they have, especially now in the times of pandemic. So in fact, last year, we've reached out to 1,600 customers. And this year, as of 3Q, we've already reached out to 1,500 customers. And in these coffee talks and webinars, we don't only talk about the loan programs or the loan options that they have, but we also talk about or share with them tips on how they could run their business online, on how they could mobilize their funds online, so that this way they could still effectively reach out to their clients and to their suppliers and so we introduce to them our BizLink, which is our back to you, Paolo.
Yes, it's fascinating because even I think pre-pandemic, there's, it's funny because we seem to be tossing around what were previously perceived as like rigid terms. When you think of a bank, when you think of loan, you think, very bureaucratic. But what you're saying right now is kind of the increase of accessibility, I think, which has been a running theme across industries throughout this past year or so. To further emphasize the point, let's call on Jerome now. Jerome, operationally, how does more access to services like these enable MSMEs to get the business up and running?
Yeah, I like your term, Paolo, rigid. That's exactly the sentiment that this market has with regard to banks, right? And specific to the micro entrepreneurs. BPI's decision to have 2 banking units focus on these 2 separate segments is very appropriate because really, even for the micro, when we developed the products that we offered them, we had to ask, what do they have? If all they have is a barangay permit, so be it. We will not require DTI, but I tell you, we will handhold them, and I hope Director Jerry will be happy with us. We will handhold them so much so that as they grow, they will now register themselves, and hopefully moving forward, will graduate into the market of gov't, right? So to your question, there are 3 things that we provide. Access to credit, financial advisory, and access to digital solutions. Very empowering, Paolo. For now, this market will has only the informal lenders to run to because of the hesitation, because of the rigid requirements of formal financial institutions. We're changing that. Financial advice, we are putting up 307 branches. We have put up 307 branches covering 74 of 81 provinces in the country, because we know that pure digital will not work for this market. You really have to be there on their face, hand-holding them, teaching them how to handle their cash, making them comfortable with borrowing, and the like. And part of that, again, is hopefully moving forward, registering themselves. And as explained by Director Jerry, my 5.4 million is our count because we consider even those who are not registered. And the goal really is to move them over to being registered and hopefully getting access also to the benefits of having themselves registered, right? And lastly, on the access to digital solutions, especially during the pandemic, now they have access to the QR codes. Now they can transfer funds. Now they can receive payments. They can put themselves in the marketplace of various platforms and then receive payment digitally. So that's what we are hoping to grant as benefit to them, and that's what those are the three things that we are focusing on now.
Yeah, grabe no. It's like it's so futuristic now, especially when you think of again putting ourselves in from the perspective of a small business owner, a very DIY, do-it-yourself kind of feel, and then you'd think supposed luxuries, no? Such as having a QR code or accepting digital payments. Maybe before the pandemic, we thought those were kind of far-flung things that you would gradually get as your business grows, but now they're quickly becoming the solution, right? So
It's a must. It's a must.
it's a must now. It's a must if we can't, right? In the age of social distancing. Now, in 2020, we saw an almost immediate response to the global pandemic as initiatives like Bayanihan Cares and DTI's own SP Corp provided billions of pesos of loans to MSMEs in need of financial aid. So, bringing it back to you, Direct Jerry, what is DTI's current directive for 2021? Is MSME aid still mostly about damage control and recouping from what was lost, or is the momentum starting to swing now in a more upward motion?
Actually, you mentioned the right word, Paolo, futuristic, because that is now the focus of the interventions. No, Jerome mentioned about their assistance to the micro enterprises on making themselves, or rather, shifting their operation to digital using the digital platform. And this is now the focus of intervention by the various enablers, not only by the DTI, but in fact by the entire membership of the MSME Development Council here in the Philippines, which is being headed by the DTI Secretary. And we act as the Secretariat, our bureau to that council. So on behalf of the MSME Development Council, I would like to take this opportunity actually to thank BPI for the various support that they have given to our MSMEs, particularly the micro enterprises, in order for the sector to recover. Because we all know that the number one desire of our MSMEs in this pandemic period, as a result of our surveys conducted since last year, their number one requested assistance from government and from the private sector enabler is always the financial assistance, Paulo. So we are very glad that BPI now is focusing on this intervention. And in fact, they have also liberalized their requirements in order for these MSMEs to have more access to these various financial facilities, because this is really a difficult time now for them. In fact, no, even if they are provided with this financial facility, the crucial factor for them still is their access to the market. So I'm glad also that through Banco, there is also this assistance given that they can make use of their digital platform, the various marketplaces now that are made available for our micro enterprises. Wherever they are, they can anytime sell and promote their products online, and even the buyers now, the consumers are already taking their orders online as well. So this is now actually the focus, Paulo, because we have now realized that the only way for our MSMEs in general to be able to recover, be able to get back to the market easily, is for them to make use of the digital platform. Because of the restrictions that I mentioned earlier, the various restrictions now, nobody can predict when the next surge will happen. So depending on the cases, our level of quarantine is imposed. So with this, I think the best solution for our enterprises is really to make use of the digital platforms because they are not affected, no, whether we are in level 1, 2, 3, or 4, as long as they have access to the market online, they can always find buyers or customers for their products and services. And this is now what is happening. And in fact, another good thing that has been brought about by this pandemic, perhaps if we can say that, is really the faster parang catching up of our enterprises to this mode, because actually this has been part of our MSME development plans or development strategy over the past three administrations. But our MSMEs previously are still reluctant to make use of these technical apps, no, or whatever facilities that are made available to them in order to facilitate, no, their easy access to the market or to their buyers rather. But now, because they have no way but to to really go digital, so everybody is now trying to catch up. So one of the requirements also while they are requesting for financial assistance is for them to be able to invest also on the appropriate technical gadgets, the appropriate technologies that they can make use. Because of course, if you are in the digital platform, you have to have an accurate, an appropriate technology as well to be able to use for your operation. So I think this is where now our banks, and we are very thankful for the BPI for their intervention, because now that access to fund is made easier by our BPI partners. Most of our micro entrepreneurs now can already avail of these facilities for them to be able to invest also on these technologies that they need in order for them to cope up with the demands of the times.
Yeah.
So this is not the focus, Paulo. We focus now on digitalization. Most of the webinars now that are being conducted, not only by the DTI, but even by the other government agencies as well as private enablers, are mostly focused on how to digitalize your operation, how to make use of the existing technology applications in order for you to really, maximize the benefit that you can get using this. Some of these technologies actually are also free. So even using their cell phones, they can already reach the market. So this is where we are right now, Paulo.
Yeah, it's highly encouraging. And on top of digitization, I think the narrative you just shared is digital acceleration. You cited three different administrations, and now it just kind of we jumped into hyperspeed, and now we're here. Now you alluded to how much BPI has done in these endeavors. So GAC, how about you? How did BPI Business Banking pivot its MSME services to cater to the needs brought about specifically by the current global crisis?
BPI has launched several initiatives, and one of that, of course, is BPI Care Bonds. We've raised total of 21.5 billion of COVID action response bonds, and the proceeds are used to finance MSME loans under BPI's sustainable funding framework. And last year, we also launched a Bayanihan to Heal as One, where we granted 90-day grace period for principal and interest payments without penalty. And then soon after that, we also launched Bayanihan to Recover as One, where we granted again another 60-day reprieve on principal and interest, and again without penalties. And apart from all the Bayanihan laws, we also gave our own interest discounts to small businesses with interest rates of 8% and above, and we gave them tiered discounts from July 16 to December 31. And then, of course, we also launched a lot of products. I've already mentioned zero collateral loans. We also have business franchise financing. We have merchant loans. We have distributors circle and business technology loans. So what we're doing is we're expanding our product lines because we do understand that different negociantes would have, of course, different needs, and we try to cater to all the needs of the negociantes. And along with all these product development, of course, we want to make it easy for the negociantes to access these products. And therefore, we're also very high on digital initiatives to make it easy for them to access, right? And in fact, this year we've launched DLAS, or the Digital Loan Application System. So through this, we can now capture the images of the loan application and the requirements and fly them instantaneously to our back room. So this way, the applications and the requests of the customers are attended to right away. And we do also have ECRM, or the Electronic Customer Relationship Management, which allows us to track the requests and the application of the clients online. So these things allow us to process the request and attend to the requests of the clients really, really fast. So there, and beyond all these business solutions and the products, we really make sure that we connect regularly with the negociantes, and therefore we conduct regular webinars and coffee talks with them. And in these coffee talks, we talk about topics which we feel could help them scale up their business. And this is true to our promise of being their partners in growth.
I just wanted to highlight those two earlier products about being able to take photos of your applications, or being able to track digitally. I think those are so crucial these days because when we were speaking of barriers to entry earlier, an additional one that's unique to this pandemic is the idea of, hey, maybe I don't want to risk lining up at a bank, maybe, right? Or lining up at an institution to sign up for something and maybe, contract the virus. So amazing to hear about how diverse your product line is now. It seems as diverse as the business segment itself. How about you, Jerome? What specific financial services do MSMEs value the most during these trying times?
Yeah, for Banco and the micro enterprises, they really went through a lot of calamities and issues starting last year. We started with Taal at the first quarter, right? Pandemic until now. And heavy rains, Ulysses and Rolly, sometime middle of the year. And again, recently the Marine has rained hard, and surely the first entrepreneurs who will be affected by all of this would have been MSMEs, and I think more so for the micro, right? The what we provided last year was consistent to what gov't said, since that was regulatory for the grace period. We did that. But more also, in addition to that, we provided additional moratorium or grace periods. We gave rehab loans, additional loans basically, so that they can jumpstart, because they would have eaten their wares or their products during the grace period where nobody can go out, right? So it's really understanding the unique situation of each borrower. In fact, in our readings of what will happen to them, we're looking at a K growth or a K scenario. We talk about U, we talk about V recovery, but for this segment, at least for us, we're looking at KYK, because some industries in this segment will go up, but there will be industries that will continue to go down. And we are looking at this, and really the solutions, the remedies, the programs that we create depend on all of these studies and constant conversations, as mentioned by gov't, with these customers. So if I can just identify the most important service that we provide now, it's really financial advisory. And that includes constant communication with them, because it's really tough right now. Give them loans, but there are no buyers, as raised by Director Jerry. Give them loans, but there are no supplies, because there are lockdowns, right? They themselves are sick. How can they be selling, right? So really, it's understanding circumstances and creating those programs that fit them. And therefore, we have insurance that covers them when they get sick, so that they don't have to force themselves to work even if they're sick. So the insurance covers for the loans that they have with us, at least while they are sick. So among others, no, we have to be creative to be able to service this segment. In fact, we call our people in our branches and our frontliners bank compare and bank comare, really to communicate the relationship that we want to build with them. Your compare is the first person you will run to for consultation, for advice, and also sometimes financial, right? We'll just make that formal a little, but yes, that's how we want to be seen, and that's the best service, I think, a most appropriate service that we can provide during these times.
Yeah, that's very telling. It seems the relationship between banks and their clients has now expanded. It's gone from the tangible and the quantitative to the intangible and qualitative. Now, of course, these banking and financial services help fuel the services that then the MSME clients render to their customers, right? So, GAC, from your perspective, how are entrepreneurs and customers looking to enhance their retail experience in this more remote economy?
You know what they say nowadays, Paolo, right? That COVID is now the father of all inventions. And true enough, when the pandemic hit, all of a sudden, we see a lot of online retailers already. And you know what they say? They also say that online selling, it's gonna outlive the pandemic. And therefore, the key here is to enhance the retail experience. And online retail is actually habit forming. So to be on the thick of things, we should have a partner bank whose platform will give them easy experience to transact with their customers and with their suppliers and even with their employees. And this is exactly what we have for you in BPI Business Banking.
And what about you, Direct Jerry, to build off of that? Any particular trends you've been seeing across industries? What are these inventions, right, that GAC was referring to? What do the MSMEs of the Philippines look like right now in a more socially distanced but digitally connected landscape?
Yeah, first of all, Paulo, let me also express my thanks to GAC and Jerome, because if I am not part of this roundtable, I would not be able to learn about these services now or programs being provided by BPI and Banco Mare to the micro, small and medium enterprises. Because definitely what they are mentioning are the exact interventions that we have been requesting from our various enablers, particularly from the banking sector. The one mentioned by Jerome, the financial advisory, is something that we are really looking forward to be provided by our financial sector to our MSMEs, because we all know that a lot of them have really suffered nga from the negative impact. So most of their existing loans with the bank talagang nag-default. No? So this is now where we want our financial advisories, or advisors rather, from the banking sector, that if they can provide this service or this assistance to our MSMEs, how to perhaps restructure or anything that can be provided by our bank officers, is very much appreciated. So with this, I am very glad that I heard about this, Paulo, and we will be glad to also announce this to the MSMEs nationwide through our negosyo centers nationwide. We have already about 1,200 negosyo centers in almost all municipalities and cities now. So we are actually bringing down to their level, to the negosyo centers, this information that can be availed of, or these programs and services that can be availed of by our MSMEs. So I will be sharing these things, and also the one that has been mentioned by GAC, that the digitalization or digitization interventions now is very much in demand. In fact, in our record at the DTI, the total number of business registration, the business name registration, is actually more than tripled during this pandemic period in the online service and the online operation. So meaning that they are finding opportunities in the online businesses, and this is the reason why that the registration now has really surged this much. So we are now trying to also take advantage of this trend, and aside from the interventions that we can provide through webinars, we are also now coming up with certain regulations, because of course, through the online operation, there can be also a lot of other some downside to this, especially complaints, for example, by our sellers and also by the buyers. So these are the things now that are being also developed by our legislative branch. We're coming up with certain regulations to protect both the sellers and the buyers. So I think this is now where we are heading to, Pao. No, we are trying now to develop this entire sector. This is an old sector, but it's only now that they have really come into prominence because of the demands of the times. No, so we're coming up with certain measures on how to further enhance the operation as well as the viability of engaging into this business. So now that we have heard that our private sector enablers, particularly DPI and its affiliate companies, are into support to this sector, we will be now more, I think, confident to also announce to our MSMEs that we have a lot of supporters and enablers in order for them to really recover from this slump brought about by this pandemic. So this is now where we are trying to focus now our intervention. So it's not only on recovery, but the one thing good mentioned by Jerome is that there might be certain sectors that may no longer be able to recover simply because of the changing landscape. There are some sectors definitely because now of the situation that may not be able to recover. So with that, we're trying to provide them with an alternative. So where are we now getting into? We are now getting into sectors that are more appropriate for this situation. So those sectors naman that may find it difficult, we have to leave it for the meantime and then focus on where the opportunity is. So I'm very glad that BPI and Bangko now are focusing their interventions also on this. So we are partner in this endeavor, Pao.
Yeah, and that ties perfectly to, I believe, the overall theme of this discussion, which is the bilateral, if that's the right word, support of both public and private institutions to uplift these MSMEs. And how encouraging to hear that we might even come out of this pandemic with more businesses than we had prior, and that was already a big number given the stats we heard earlier. Now, anyway, we are winding down on this conversation now, but to start wrapping it up on this optimistic note, let's look ahead to the near future and see how all of your current activities fit into this bigger picture. So back to you, Direct Jerry. What is your vision for Filipino MSMEs in 2022 and beyond, and how will you work to achieve that vision?
Well, actually, our vision for our MSME sector now is that it's now changing into it's a younger generation now because of the requirements, the demands of doing business now. Is really more appropriate for the young generations. That's why we're also promoting entrepreneurship among our youth sector, because we know that all of these things that we are mentioning now is really more of a, easily handled by our young entrepreneurs. So our focus now on our entrepreneurship development is towards this sector because we have a young a young population in the country. So this is just the same. We also trying to promote entrepreneurship among the sector, especially those which are already out of school and not engaged yet productively. So this is now the sector that we are trying to address most of our capacity building. So we're trying to promote to them what are the things that they can develop. There is a new sector now that is really coming up very, positively. The creative sector. There are a lot of things that can be done by our young generation in this sector alone. The thing that you are doing right now with us here, this roundtable, this is something also that might also attract investors later on. You can promote not only topics to discuss, but all other services that can be made, accessible to our consuming public. This is a potential business undertaking. So with this is now what we're trying to really, project that in the coming years, the new generation now, the young generation, is really what we have to invest on.
Thank you for that, Direct Jerry. And yes, second, the note on the proliferating creativity here in the Philippines, and we've seen it even with you over here in DPI and DTI with your online content, so to speak. So, Gak, How do you personally plan on expanding your services even further to build an even stronger partnership with your MSME clients?
Actually, Paolo, something exciting is brewing, definitely, but I just can't spill the beans right now. But one thing for sure, yeah, digitalization is at the forefront of the initiatives of the bank, and it's always centered on bringing the best customer experience because we want to reach out to more SMEs. We want to help more SMEs because we want to set them up for success. And all this we do because we are your partners in growth.
Perfect. Short and sweet. How about you, Jerome, with your on the ground experience? What are your goals for BPI Banco's growing relationship with MSMEs? Oh, Jerome, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry for that. Yeah, I just cannot, before I answer that, I cannot help but also recognize the efforts of DTI. Director Jerry has been thanking us so much, but in fact, when we open a branch in an area, the first unit that we run to is the DTI of the place, right? So really, it's this partnership with DTI, in fact, with BSP, all of the regulations that they have provided us to be able to do this is helping us provide this service to the micro entrepreneurs. And really, in fact, I think GAP and Banco, in fact, are joining, do participate in the DTI programs when they have programs in the ground. So really, it's this partnership that is helping us achieve our aspirations for our target segment, right? But again, thank you, Director Jerry, and thank you to DTI as well. To your question, two things. First is really to continue that conversation. We get insights. We are able to create those programs by continuing to have that conversation. That we will commit. And the second one really is consistent with the direction of GAP and of BPI as a whole technically. We will be providing a lot more services in the digital space. And something to look forward to. In fact, what I can tell you is that we went out of our way to even tap and partner with IFC, International Finance Corporation, right, to give us ideas on how else we can provide service to this segment. And they bring with them knowledge and perspective from other economies, which who also where microfinance is also a segment that they want to help, right? So that we are doing so that we are able to really uplift the lives of people in this segment. Thank you.
It's fantastic. It really sounds like a community effort, to be honest. And I hope our viewers are encouraged and motivated, especially all of you out there who are aspiring entrepreneurs or small business owners. And by the way, you can always rewind this video, right? You can always watch this again if you'd like and share it with friends. That's the beauty, right, of online video. But before we officially conclude today's roundtable, why don't we all panelists leave our viewers, especially those whom I referred to earlier, with some last bits of advice? Starting with Jerome, we spoke earlier about how intimidating, right, to get these things started up, especially for micro businesses. So, how else would you encourage aspiring entrepreneurs to get their businesses off the ground?
I want to be as creative as Director Jerry has described and as possible, right? So I'm coining my tips as BPI. How's that? So my advice is for our micro entrepreneurs to be resilient. There's so much that will come our way, but really in a meeting called by the Microfinance Council of the Philippines, they declared that this segment is one of the more resilient segments. And I believe that, and we just need to continue being resilient. Second is P, practice the discipline of segregating your money and personal money and the money of the business. This is a basic teaching or behavior or habit that we need to maintain for these small businesses. They kind of mix business and personal money. So that is my big tip as a second tip. And thirdly, it's really partner with institutions that help you, that can help you. BTI is there, Banco is there, BPI is there, BSP is there. And I think government right now, we have the Small Business Corporation, we have guarantees, even the OST gives out loans, right? So identify those institutions which can help you. So my tip, be resilient, practice the discipline of segregating your money and the money of the business. And lastly, the institutions that can help you take advantage of them. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. It seems like everyone has an access now to a wealth of resources. On that note, Direct Jerry, any last messages for all the MSMEs out there looking for more opportunities to grow their business?
Yeah, if I were an MSME, Pao, the first reaction that I will be doing is to visit the nearest BPI branch and find out all of these things that we have just heard this morning. And with this, I would like to again encourage everyone, all our MSMEs, to have trust and confidence, not only on government, but also on our private sector enablers. There are a lot of things now that are in store for you as entrepreneurs. Take advantage of all this, and we know that something positive will really happen. Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone.
Thanks for that, Direct Jerry. Last but not least, GAC, drawing from your very diverse client base, what advice can you give that speaks to Filipino businesses of all shapes and all sizes?
It's very similar to what Direct Jerry and Jerome mentioned. No? It's the best way to move forward at this point is to move forward together. Let us remember that we have allies who are happy to help us. We have DTI, they're always running. There's MERA and there's KMME. And of course, we have BPI, Banco, and BPI Business Banking. We want you to be with us when the economy reopens because we are your partners in growth. So thank you so much.
Partners in growth, I believe that is the perfect note to end on, everybody. Thanks so much to our wise panelists for an enlightening roundtable discussion today. Thank you, Direct Jerry Clavicilias of the Bureau of Small and Medium Enterprise Development with the DTI, Ms. Gak Pagulayan, Acquisition Head for BPI's Business Banking segment, and of course, Mr. Jerome Menglana, President of BPI Direct Banco. We wish you the best of luck on all your endeavors.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stay safe.
So all of course, thank you to all our viewers out there and MSME owners especially. I hope you found some inspiration or at least motivation to keep on going during these challenging times. Again, this is Paulo Batanga, your moderator for today, reminding you to catch all sorts of business and career content regularly here on Rappler. You can tune into my show, Inside the Industry, every Thursday night, where I interview business owners like the ones we were talking about and inspiring professionals looking to share their stories. For now, stay safe, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.